Here's Brody Brazil.
If you don't mind, can I get a few minutes on the Kings?
You can do whatever you want.
I'm kind of a closet Kings junkie. I at the network, I know in the Bay Area here, we're not really allowed to watch all the broadcasts. There you go, the Kings hockey sweater.
Yeah, I got the hockey
See,
sweater.
the Sharks beat the Kings, the Los Angeles Kings. So I always have to make that distinction too. The good Kings versus the bad Kings.
Yes.
This Kings season has been interesting in a sense that there have been some losses, not a lot of losses, like not, an overwhelming amount. They're still kind of flirting with the playoff position, but the way they've lost some games in blowout fashion, in upset fashion, how do you describe the big theme of this season and maybe some of the slip-ups so far?
I mean, we have a segment that has become so, this is not a lie, that has become so regular on my show. We've coined the term Willoty, which stands for a worst loss of the year. And we have the almost weekly Willoty, which we joke, brought to you by whoever, your sponsor here. And it's whether it's Klay Thompson earlier in the year with the backbreaker with 0.4 left. Right. We just in the last couple of weeks, we're up 4. And I'm a we guy, by the way. Right. I don't apologize.
I get it.
I'm a we guy. I'm part of the team. We're all part of the team. We're in Milwaukee looking to upset the Bucks, up 4 in overtime, and our 90% free throw shooter Malik Monk at the line, he misses both.
I saw that.
We gave up a lead in Phoenix that hadn't been given up in that time frame in 1,245 games, Brody. So I would say the theme is more of an idea. You have a younger family than I do. My children, as I said, are 16 and 15. They're at the age now where they're still going to make mistakes, and it's my job as their father to correct them. But if they've made the same mistake for the 5th time, that's where I really get pissed off and frustrated. That's where we're at right now. These guys, it was one thing all the years when they sucked and they just lost to good teams. They know better than this.
Right.
Something ain't right, and you just got to hope they figure it out.
Do they know better than this because last year they did get over the hump, they did make it to the playoffs, they took the Warriors to 7 games, and really, what does that set up for this year? Like, the bar has been set a lot higher. My question to you is, where is that bar? How high is that bar? Like, what would satisfy you at the end of this season to look back and say, okay, you know what? I'm content with that.
Last year was a 7-game series, a tremendous series with the Dynasty Warriors, and it took Steph dropping 50 on the road.
That's right.
And a 7th game for the rookie in the playoff Kings to be ousted. I just want to see progress. Of course, I'd love to see a title, and I'd love to see a Western Conference Finals. But if they make it to the 2nd round this year, that's progress. The counter. I had a guy on Twitter last week. I didn't recognize. It was just some guy tweeted me. It was Coach Mike Brown had. There was a video put out of him saying, these are learning lessons. We're learning this, that, whatever. And I quote tweeted it and said, what are we learning? And a gentleman replied to me and said, you obviously, it's been a long time since you've seen a playoff dynasty built. These things happen. They're the hunted, not the hunter anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
And you learn these lessons in time. And for social media, Brody, we actually had a very good back and forth. Then I find out Tuesday. Yesterday. Sorry. Somebody says, hey man, that was a kind of an interesting back and forth last week. And what are you talking about?
Uh-oh.
Well, yeah, it turns out I didn't look at the name. It was Mike Brown's son, Elijah, that was tweeting me and schooling me on how to build a contender. And I'm so glad I didn't snap back at him or say something stupid, but he had a great point. It just happened to be Coach's son. And I hope he's right. Whether you need to make moves or not this year, I don't know with the trade deadline coming up, but something's got to change.
I look back at the turnaround, and I do see Mike Brown is probably a big reason, part of that. Obviously you got Fox and Sabonis, and you got the core group of players too, which I'm going to get into that in a second as well. But in terms of maybe adding to this group, the trade deadline right around the corner, and there's been some talk and maybe even speculation that Sacramento is not some real desirable situation for other players around the league to jump into, but I find that hard to believe. It's a young up-and-coming group, a coach they like, a coach that's well-respected. How do you see the attractiveness of Sacramento as being part of, gaining more traction in the future with better players?
Well, I think you look at, first off, the success the team had last year and the direction they're going, and then the little things. There's there's no secret that Sacramento basketball fans are some of the loudest and rowdiest in the NBA. We treat these players like gods. We don't have any other
Yeah.
major league sports here. They get all the attention, all the love. We're incredibly forgiving as a fan base. Obviously, the weather comparatively is good out here, and we're close to things. Look, Sacramento is never going to be, as I always say, the grand prize and the price is right for the Showcase Showdown. You're not getting a 2-week vacation to Sac, but we're close to Lake Tahoe. We're close to San Francisco in the Bay Area. We're an hour from Los Angeles. We're 4 hours, 5 hours from Hawaii. This is a good place to live. You look at people like Brad Miller, Bobby Jackson, Vlade Divac, Doug Christie. There's so many ex-Kings that Peja Stojakovic that
They live
made
there.
their home. They live here.
Yeah.
They've raised their families here. And there's a couple things that people don't ever realize about the Kings that I always have fun with. Number one, they're the oldest consecutive operating franchise in the NBA, celebrating their 100th anniversary this year. You'd think it'd be the Knicks or the Celtics or the Bulls. They were the Richmond Seagrams in 1924, and they're still running to this day. So that's number one. Number two, Brody, there's almost never been a free agent that was a Sacramento King that didn't re-sign with the team. We've had to force play. Chris Webber was literally crying on the plane. It's a famous story coming over from Washington when he got traded here, and we re-upped him and eventually traded him to Philly. Everyone we've tried to re-sign, they want to stay here.
Yep.
It's a great place to play. It's a great place to live.
All right, two more things. Fox and Sabonis, at the core of everything. And the Kings will need their best players to be the best players when it counts. How do you see their maturation and their chemistry together and their leadership as part of this group?
Well, last year, I think when it came to leadership, there was a lot of weight on Harrison Barnes' shoulder. Won a championship with the Warriors. If you've covered Harrison Barnes, I know you have.
Yep.
He is. If he was a religion, I'd go to church every Sunday. He is the most wonderful human being you
intellectual.
could ever meet.
I like the intellectual side. Yeah.
Call him the banker, because he just, he puts on those little glasses and you could see him giving you a home loan. The guy is, his IQ is off the charts. And he was such a mature, calming presence for this team last year. And now you see, DeMontis a little bit older than De'Aaron, but not much. But you see De'Aaron coming into his own. He's been struggling this month, but you see that real high level. He's in the conversation for best two-way point guard in the league. In the conversation, he's really stepped things up. And then Keegan Murray in his second year, Brody, after breaking the record for threes for a rookie last year, his job was kind of to stand in the corner and shoot. He's now taken more 2-point than 3-point shots this year. We're seeing a rise in defense where he's truly turning into a 3-and-D guard. And I think over the next few months, year to 2 years, you and I could be talking 2 years from now and looking back. And if the Kings have been ultimately and continuously successful, it's going to be on the shoulders of Keegan Murray's emergence as a true triple threat.
Well, from Keegan to Malik to Harrison Barnes to Herder, there is that supporting cast, and I think that's what makes this a playoff team. But the thing about it is to get to that next step, to satisfy, like what you're saying, a second-round appearance or even farther. Does that core just need a little bit more development and time together, or do they need some reinforcements along the way? Like, what do you see ultimately leading this team to getting them to where you want to be?
Not only do we have the reigning coach of the year, but we have the reigning executive of the year, Monty McNair, who and his staff, Wes Wilcox, who used to be the GM over at Atlanta, they're incredibly experienced, incredibly smart. Monty went to Princeton, but also played wide receiver. And I always joke with him, he kind of speaks nerd and jock. They've really turned this thing around. The question you just asked is the absolute most vital, most asked question we have. When I say he, Monty, has been known, like for example, the trade deadline last year, we all thought a move was coming. He made one move. It was for Kessler Edwards, a backup with the Nets nobody had heard of.
Right.
And the team was one of the best teams in the NBA for the last half of the season.
Right.
He has earned the trust. My instinct, they need an upgrade at the, they need to upgrade off of Barnes. Herder's been struggling this year. I know that's a spot. They need a defensive wing, somebody that can guard, whether it's a Matisse Thybulle, Ben Simmons, if he were healthy, would be the, and everywhere healthy would be somebody you talk about. Mikal Bridges, who costs an arm and a leg. But those are the types of players from minor to major impact I think they're looking for. But Brody, we could be sitting here at the end of the trade deadline, and honest to God, it's a coin flip whether or not they make a move or not.
Yeah.
I think they need to make one, but I trust Monty McNair.
It's kind of that tweener situation of, well, they're good enough and they've got the track record, and maybe like other good teams of past years, they can turn it on when they know they have to. We'll see how it goes. I'll be pulling for them. Obviously, I appreciate you entertaining my Kings conversation there for